Today on the Big Six in 60, the 76ers force Game 7.
I don't believe what I have been seeing.
The Timberwolves knock out the Nuggets.
Jaden McDaniels was balling all night, 32 points of his own.
And the Knicks get a historic blowout over the Hawks.
He was a sicko in this one. He was on a mission.
This is the Big Six in 60, the 6 biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big Six in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big Six in 60 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The 76ers held off the Celtics last night to keep their season alive and force a Game 7 in their first round series. Mark Farzetta with Locked On 76ers breaks down the win for Philly.
I don't believe what I have been seeing in now 3 different games in this series with the Boston Celtics. The 76ers don't just win, they dominate the Boston Celtics from jump. In Game 2, they absolutely took control. In Game 4, they absolutely took, or Game 5, they absolutely took control. And then tonight, they take control again against this Celtics team. And you know what? It wasn't as much like, oh, Joel Embiid was down in the post much, or they completely outshot the Celtics in this one. It wasn't really even so much that. It was defense. It was defense that won them this game. I thought this would be a more hard-fought battle. I actually said this morning with Keith when we did the show live at 10 o'clock, I said that this was going to be a 110-100 Celtics victory, and the Sixers were the ones pulling out the hard-fought win, 106-93 over the Boston Celtics. I want to jump right to this feature.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Here's what you're going to be talking about tomorrow. The Sixers' defensive effort, number one. This is how good it was for the Sixers tonight. Just to go by the numbers for a second here, and then I'll get into some more specific things. Jaylen Brown led the Celtics led the Celtics with 18 points. No one scored more than 18 points on the Celtics. He needed 17 shots to get there. Jason Tatum, 17 points, needed 13 shots to get there. 2 of those came from beyond the arc. That's the type of night it was for the Boston Celtics. Justin Edwards, at one point before the half, stepped up tremendously against Jaylen Brown and actually got a stop. And that stop on Jaylen Brown by Justin Edwards led to a 3 down the other end. Like, it was just defense into offense. Everything you heard growing up playing the sport was applied when it came to the fundamentals of the sport of basketball tonight. And the 76ers executed that perfectly. It also helps that Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey all came to play in this game today. So that's what I think you're going to be talking about when it comes to players.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
No. I mean, the players of the game tonight. Joel Embiid was 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Let me say that one more time. 2 assists shy of a triple-double tonight. 21. Now 3 weeks removed from an appendectomy. He's out there balling for your 76ers. He's hitting the floor. He's playing physical. He's getting rebounds. 19 points in 34 minutes on 18 shots, sure. 10 rebounds, 8 assists for the big man tonight. One of the things I absolutely loved about Joel Embiid in Game 5 of this series was his distribution. And my big request of Joel Embiid going into this season was to be more of a facilitator. Be somebody that your guys on the wings can count on for a kick out. And that's what they got time and time again tonight. Also, you see him running that 2-man game, top of the key with Tyrese Maxey, keeping the Celtics defense guessing. He ran that to perfection tonight. Outside of Joel Embiid, Paul George had his best game of the series, offensively and defensively tonight. Also came away with only 2 fouls, kept his hands in, moved his feet. It was phenomenal to watch that tonight. He comes away 23 points, 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. Tyrese Maxey after that. I mean, wow. 13 points in the second quarter, I mean, you wanted to see a team take control. The Sixers in total outscored the Boston Celtics 38-20. They scored damn near 40 points in the second quarter on the Boston Celtics. They maintained control in the third quarter, rather. And Tyrese Maxey was a big part of that. He finished with dropping 30 points on 11-22. He was 3 of 5 from beyond the arc, 5 assists. And on a day like today, in 40 minutes for Tyrese Maxey, 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers tonight. VJ was there when he needed him to be there. He had 8 rebounds on the night. The bench didn't give you a whole hell of a lot, unfortunately, in this one for the Sixers in total. 4 points. But you got 5 rebounds from Justin Edwards, 7 rebounds from Andre Drummond. Just a sight to behold. What impresses you, I mean, those are the numbers. I mentioned some specific things there with Justin Edwards getting the stop on Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid's ability to kick the ball out, his ability to play physical tonight. Everyone just came to play. This is what the full potential of the 76ers looks like. And I was bracing myself for the disappointment. All right, you had the fun in game 5. Good for you. You're going to play game 6. One more game at home. One more game you get to hear Matt Cord announce the starting lineup and then say the opposing team in a depressed voice, Jason Tatum. One more time. All right. But I did set the scene, and I'll bring it up tomorrow with Keith Pompey when I talk about it with him. I set the scene this morning. I said, nothing would warm my heart more. Nothing would warm my heart more than keeping the good vibes going in the Xfinity Mobile Arena after the Flyers took care of business against the Penguins, another rival. Sixers do the same thing in game 6, but we would hear at the end of the game, we want Boston. We want Boston. We want Boston. And with about 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you beautiful South Philly faithfuls. Oh, my God, I love you. I heard it raining down from on high. Everyone losing their minds with, we want Boston. Chef's kiss. Ovation to all yous. Ovation to all yous guys down there in South Philadelphia. And all right, now back to the team. This is the full potential of the 76ers. When we talked throughout the season about getting guys back healthy or off suspension in some cases, this is what we talked about. And the thing that's so interesting about this is the guys that were supposed to step up and play their asses off tonight and produce, that's exactly who did it. We talked about the big 3. I mentioned VJ Edgecombe, 14 points, 8 rebounds. Kelly Oubre came up with 14 points. Man, he was just nonstop, offensively, defensively. One of the things Kelly Oubre did phenomenally well tonight was help get Jaylen Brown in foul trouble. Kelly's been doing a phenomenal job of getting that contact from Jaylen Brown and making it obvious. And I don't care if you're the biggest, blindest Celtics fan out there, where everything the Celtics do is great, and everybody else sucks, and everything they do is right, and everything you do is wrong. This is illegal. Like it's one thing to guard the basketball; it's another thing to just shove your forearm into somebody's chest, or literally stop dribbling, shove while your torso stays still, extend the elbow, extend the arm, and then go up for a shot. That's illegal. Very simple to see that. It started to get really called. It started to get called in game 5 a little bit. Got called even more tonight on Jaylen Brown. I don't know what he finished up with, as a matter of fact, but I know at one point he rattled off 2 quick fouls. 4 fouls he finished up with tonight. But Oubre did a phenomenal job of making sure he could use that to his advantage on the defensive end of things, and that also helped turn the tides and take control in that second quarter as well for the Sixers, and they kept it going throughout the game. So all in all, we talk about the potential of this team. This is what you got from your starting 5. You didn't get much from the bench in terms of points, but when your starting 5 is cooking the way they are, when they're playing defense the way they were in this particular game, it was pretty awesome.
The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. It's a really easy app to navigate, and it makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Timberwolves finished off Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets to punch their ticket into the next round. Luke Inman and Jack Borman with Locked On Wolves have the recap.
Let's just jump right into it, though. Wolves up 3-2 in the series, but the injury gods strike again. I know the Nuggets didn't have Aaron Gordon, but no DDV. We knew that. But just hours before the game, we find out no Ayo, no Kyle Anderson as well. What does Finch do? He puts Terrence Shannon Jr. in the one, and that move paid huge dividends. We'll get into that, but 24 points and 6 boards. Jaden McDaniels was balling all night, 32 points of his own. And Jack, tonight was just, it felt like the total team effort they absolutely needed to get the job done. And the Target Center was absolutely chaotic. They knock off the Nuggets in dramatic fashion yet again. What's the vibe right now in that locker room? And what were your top 2 or 3 biggest takeaways, big picture, before we get into the finer details?
A team they said was held together by pills and injection, wins in 6 games. Just an incredible night here at Target Center. I think the most important thing was just how engaged and how loud this crowd was. Frankly, I couldn't feel my body for pretty much the entire second half. This place was just a madhouse. Everybody was on their feet. And it was just a culture win for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think, when you're down your superstar, you're down your 2 supporting guards, you're also without a trusted defender in Kyle Anderson, who does a lot in huddles and calling stuff out, just found a way. And I think that's been the mentality in this locker room for this team, right? Is that when you're so tight and you're so emotionally connected as a group, I think that you have no choice but to dig deeper when the tank's running on E, to find every ounce of energy that you can to go out and leave everything on the floor. And the Timberwolves certainly did that. It was every man on deck, ready to go. And pretty much every single guy that played in this game tonight for the Timberwolves just found a way and made a huge impact and undeniably played really hard. And I just think that, big picture, the fact that Jaden McDaniels ended the most successful era of Denver Nuggets basketball is something that I think is going to get remembered for a long time. Jaden McDaniels talked all of his trash, said you're all bad defenders, got in a dust up once the series shifted here to Target Center. Got after Nikola Jokic at the end of a game again, went toe-to-toe with him, was unafraid, laughing in his face while holding his jersey, and has just kind of been the guy that this Timberwolves team has rallied around emotionally. And for him to come out tonight and drop not only just a playoff career high, but a career high 32 points on 13 of 25 shooting. He was 12 of 21 from 2, also added 10 rebounds and a block, was just tremendous. I mean, he was the best player on the floor tonight by a mile. Held Jamal Murray to 12 points on 17 shots, just made his life an absolute living hell. And I just, when all the dust settles and I don't really care beyond today right now. I think that when the dust settles, I really hope that Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert get the requisite flowers that they deserve for what they did in this series. They were the 2 best players in this series for my money. And that is a generationally great offensive duo in Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And their 2-man game has been this unsolvable puzzle that has just kind of terrorized the league offensively, right? It's always been the defensive end of the floor that's been the Denver Nuggets bugaboo, but the defense wasn't necessarily why Denver lost this series. I think you could talk about the paint stuff, and we'll get into that. But I mean, you look at this Timberwolves team and what they did in this series against Denver defensively. Denver in this series scored. I gotta look this up. But I mean, I just think when you think about what those two guys did, not only the discipline that it requires for those guys to continually be able to defend without fouling and stay out of foul trouble for the most part, but also be able to just make it really tough on them, right? I mean, Denver in this series held under 100 points 3 times in this series, which is crazy. I would be shocked if they were held under 100 more than once or twice in the regular season. So I think you've just got to give you've got to give Minnesota a ton of credit for what they did on the defensive end of the floor. Yeah, Denver this season only scored less than 100 points twice. The Timberwolves held them to less than 103 times.
That's wild
in this series. So big picture, can get into some other things as well. But I thought that was the best game of Chris Finch's Timberwolves career. With some of the decisions. Do we want to get into a couple of the decisions that I thought helped swing?
Yeah, rip them off. Yeah, absolutely. Rip them off, Jack.
I think, the first one was that I came into this game and I was thinking, doing my prep, and for the squad show that aired today, you can go back and watch that. I said the Timberwolves needed to win in 2 areas. They needed to win in the paint. Mm-hmm. They needed to win on second chances. And in order to do that, you've got the personnel to be able to play really big. And that's what the Timberwolves did in this game. And they won 64 to 40 in the paint. And then on second chances, the Timberwolves had 19 offensive rebounds for 20 second chance points. Denver had just 4 second chance points. And then, so to be plus 24 in the paint, plus 16 in second chance points is unbelievable. And then, the jumbo lineup that Chris Finch went to, it included Jaden, who's 7 feet, Naz, who's 6'10", Julius, who's 6'9", Rudy, who's 7'1". And that lineup, with Ant, had played just 2 minutes all year, which is kind of crazy to think about. There just wasn't a whole lot of tinkering in the regular season in that regard. But tonight, that quartet played 17 minutes. They won those minutes 44 to 29. It's a plus 15. They held Denver to a 90.6 defensive rating, which is absolutely like the worst defensive rating in the league this year, or offensive rating in the league this year would be, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 108, 109. So to hold them to a 90.6 offensive rating is pretty remarkable. And then on the other end of the floor, they had an 8-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So without a whole lot of ball handling, they still took care of their business. They had an offensive rebound percentage of 41.2. So they collected 41% of their missed shots. That would be first in the NBA this season. And then they had 4 steals and 12 points off of turnovers in those 17 minutes. And they still got out and ran. I think they had 7 fast break points as a group, and that was a lot to do with TJ Shannon, who we'll get into later, who played kind of as the one in that group. And that was the group that closed this game, and it was absolutely tremendous. So I think when you think about Finch doing that, the off-ball screening was way up in this game. That was something we talked about after game 5, that the Wolves just didn't get a whole lot done on the second side. And then, I thought that allowed Naz and Julius and Jaden to all get kind of cleaner looks going to the hoop, and all of those guys, had their moments of really impacting the game at a high level offensively. And then again, I just think that for Chris Finch to have, these choices at his disposal and be able to make this impact, everything that it was based on 2 things happening: Jaden McDaniels staying out of foul trouble and Rudy Gobert staying out of foul trouble. And both those things happened. And again, it all comes back to those 2 guys. But I think this is one of the most impressive victories, maybe save for game 7 in Denver a couple years ago in franchise history. And everybody that had any ounce of anything to do with this game, whether you were a fan in the arena, a player, a coach, whatever, should just be on cloud 9 right now for, I think, what this win, represents for a culture that's always been next man up and having each other's backs.
The Knicks blew out the Hawks in historic fashion to move on to the Eastern Conference semifinals. Gavin Shaw and XJ with Locked On Knicks take you through a big, big win for New York.
OG Anunoby Series MVP. He was a sicko in this one. He was on a mission. Mikal Bridges back in action. That was a lot of the Knicks doing some good things to get him going. A lot of Mikal doing some good stuff to get himself going. The Knicks sent a message to the rest of the NBA. And first and foremost, XJ, I mean, my goodness, this was just a historic blowout. I mean, some of the craziest numbers. The Knicks, in the first half, they put together runs. I was tracking it throughout of 43-6, 51-8, and they had a 73-20 first half stretch against the team that beat them twice in this series. Like, this wasn't the end of a sweep. They lead by as many as 61 points, 99-38 in the second half. That was the largest overall lead, if I understood ESPN's graphic correctly, in NBA playoff history. They had the largest halftime lead at 47 points in NBA playoff history. They scored the most points in a playoff game in Knicks franchise history. I'm sure at halftime, they had as many steals as the Hawks had field goals. I'm sure there's 10 other numbers we can go to sum this up, but my goodness, was this a butt whooping.
Oh man, you said a bunch of them, but we're gonna hear so many stats flying around about this game for the next few days. At least for me, though, the place that I go, the place that my mind went first, maybe early into the third quarter, was that the final game of the regular season, the Hawks simply needed to win, and they would have secured the 5th seed. They would have played the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round, who are struggling for their lives against the Toronto Raptors right now. But instead, they chose voluntarily to sit their starters and lose the game. I tweeted this out. If the Hawks win, they lock up the 5th seed in a matchup with the Cavs. The only way they could possibly drop to 6 and get the Knicks is if they lose. And they just made everyone a game time decision for tomorrow. Looks like they're happy to play New York in round 1. Big mistake, maybe. Big mistake. Didn't calculate that one well, did you, Atlanta? Unfortunately, people kept saying, oh, well, they just assumed Orlando would win and beat the Celtics. And so, you don't bank that. If you really think, man, we want to get the most advantageous matchup, we want to get into the best seed possible for us moving into the playoffs, you don't say, oh, we'll just assume 2 other teams are going to take care of business. You take care of business. And guess what? You still had 5 games you would have rested or 5 days you would have rested anyway, even if you played that game and won that game. And they decided to rest because they said either the Cavs and Knicks, whatever, it don't matter to us. Or they said, we'd love to play the Knicks. Either way, you messed up, buddy, and you got the BTA, unfortunately for you, because this level of embarrassment is not going to go away anytime soon. So that's the first place my mind went. Maybe I'm very petty, but that's just how I felt thinking about this game. I was like, well, you guys could have avoided this.
Take that for data. Shout out to the GOAT, Dave Fizdale. I have the Dave Fizdale smile meme just blaring in my head. Right? It's still,
that's amazing.
Now that the Knicks are in just a objectively, if not great, a really, really good spot as a franchise, that is just one of the funniest pictures I've ever seen. I didn't think I'd be bringing it up tonight, but it takes an all-time high to bring up an all-time low. But that was a good place to start, and I bet there is some regret on the Hawks side. Obviously, they made some noise in this series. Game 2, game 3, painful, and yet you look back on that and you're like, how did the Knicks lose twice to this team? And I don't know whether that should be a reflection on everything they figured out and the way they've coalesced since then, and the way Mike Brown, I'll use our favorite buzzword, has optimized pretty much every aspect of this team and how they look synergistic and complementary in a way. Like when we did a million pods, I mean, this year and even last year before you joined the pod full time, we were doing them on our own about how it just felt like this team never quite added up to the sum of their parts. And now they are there and they are beyond. I mean, they are I always reference second half of 2024 because that was the one time where I was like, the team, they were dominant against the best teams in the league and they profiled like a championship contender. Atlanta just had some clear flaws that the Knicks could really push on. And by game 6, instead of loosening a little bit and saying, all right, we're going to go a little soft, we're better than this team. The Knicks just sharpened the scalpel in such extreme ways and said, we are actually going to push on those advantages harder than we have at any point in the series. Mo Gay, you're going to have 15 feet to shoot every time. Dyson Daniels, congratulations, man. We're going to roll out the red carpet every time you have an open three. OG Anunoby is just going to be essentially guarding no one and stunting towards like the wrong player to bait the Hawks to pass to the guy he wants them to pass to, and then he's going to jump in and pick it off. I want to get into these plays in more detail, but we're gonna run that Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby little flex action. But actually, there's 4 more layers to this to eventually get Jalen an open three. Like the Knicks were like predatory is the term I would use, like in the last 3 games of this series. But actually, like what gives me so much confidence going to the second round, first of all, now that the whoever their opponent is will have to go 7 games after the Sixers embarrass the Celtics and the Celtics are falling apart at the seams. That gives me some confidence. But the other thing that gives me confidence is the way the Knicks ramped up in this series from 4 to 5 to 6. Like 4 was such a gritty effort and a war, and 5 it was like, all right, they've established dominion over the Hawks, and game 6 was like, yeah, you guys literally, like, this term is overused, you guys belong in a different league than us. And the Knicks all of a sudden feel like again, an analogy maybe some people won't appreciate, but the Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo Heat years of like, this is I want to curse here, but this is a freaking adult team at this point. Like you're going to look stupid if you are not ready to compete on that level. And next round, whoever they play is going to be a little bit more serious than Atlanta, but the Knicks just have a look to them that screams a serious basketball team when so many people over this year, including us, have called this team unserious at times. Like I cannot speak enough to the fact of how locked in they are at this point.
I've absolutely questioned their intensity, their focus, their attention to detail, whether they bring it in situations. And going into this game, I was concerned. I was not concerned that they would lose the series. I think we made that pretty clear the last time we talked about the series, but I was concerned that they would not bring that level of intensity, kind of let go of the rope a little bit, kind of say like, yeah, we're better than this team. We could kind of walk in and just hopefully we'll win. And Atlanta's going to bring this energy where their back is against the wall and they're desperate and they'll do anything to get this win. And this was the most encouraging thing, and not just the point total or the point disparity or any individual performance that we're going to talk about, but just the way that the Knicks competed, the energy level that they brought to this game, where they were up in the series, going on the road in game 6, and to do what they did from an energy, physicality, effort level standpoint is the most encouraging thing that I have seen from this team across the entire season, bar none. Easily. And it's not about shooting well or deployment or anything that you and I have talked about endlessly this season and in prior seasons even. It is just about the fact that they were able to bring this energy level to compete with the Atlanta Hawks, who desperately needed to win and were at home in front of their crowd. Their coach is talking about how your back is against the wall. You got to do everything you can do. We're going to leave it all out there. And you get destroyed by 60 points at certain points throughout the game. Like, that is absolutely stunning, impressive. I don't care what the talent disparity is. I don't care what the disadvantages they have as far as their poor shooters. And we're going to talk about all that stuff, but I really don't care about any of it. The fact is, this is a very good NBA basketball team on the other side of you in the Atlanta Hawks, with highly athletic, physically strong and skilled players who are prideful, who are trying to win and potentially just drag it out to a 7-game series. And the Knicks said, we don't care. We're bringing more energy. We're bringing more effort. We're bringing more physicality, and we're going to just dominate you with our talent. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you're just going to have to sit there and watch and just experience this. That is the most encouraging performance I've seen from this Knicks team, probably more than just this season, probably as far back as I can remember.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Wild eliminated the Stars and finally broke through to the second round. Seth Tupal with Locked On Wild talks us through it.
Alex, your favorite performance from the series, why was it Jamie Benn?
Incredible to lose the series on a turnover. Just karma, right? Just amazing. That probably ends his career too. So just fitting. He ends the entire playoff series with 0 points. So bye-bye, Jamie Benn.
Yeah, he had more penalties. He had more penalties in the series than points. Mikko Rantanen had more penalties in the series than goals. one non-power play point for Mikko Rantanen in the entire series.
I put it on X. I was like, biggest mistake by Dallas to go back to Glenn Gulletson. I mean, that guy got severely outcoached.
John Hines walked him. John Hines walked him in the series.
He had no idea what to do with his lines. It was just a complete disaster. The fact that he kept going back to Tyler Myers and just finally decided to do it in the last game, just disaster class. And Peter DeBoer is one of the best coaches in the NHL, and just mind-boggling that just because of the spat he had with Ottinger that they fired him. That was just a horrible decision.
The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the Dallas Stars they could win a series only scoring power play goals. Think about that.
They were just a mess, right? Unbelievable. I know they were missing hints, but still, how Gulletson couldn't figure out to get them 5-on-5 scoring is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, he certainly would have helped.
Yes, yeah.
But honestly, the Wild were just the better team in the series.
Yeah.
Every game, with the exception of game 2, where you had kind of the meltdown in the second and third period for the Wild. And by the way, they were right in that game to the end. Like Brock Faber scored, there were 6 minutes left. It was 3-2. So it's not like the Wild got blown out in any of the games in this series. They were in every single game in the series. You bring in Rupe Hintz, maybe game 1 is closer. Maybe game 5 is closer, but I still think even with Rupe Hintz in the lineup, the Wild were by far the better team.
And Wally outplayed Ottinger. It was just a masterpiece by the rookie, and under so much pressure, and to beat one of the best goalies in the league in Ottinger, he did it. Who knows if Gus plays, what happens, just so brilliant decision, by the Wild and the coaching staff, Hines, to go with Wally. They didn't have, just because Gus has a long contract, that didn't sway them into playing the rookie. And I applaud them for doing that.
I'd like to applaud Matt Boldy too, throughout the series, not only with his play, but his words all series long too, getting ticked off, even with just some of the narrative that was surrounding this team. And he said it the moment this game ended. He said, "We're not here to just win one round."
Faber too, just amazing quotes. He's like, "We knew we were the better team. We just had to prove it." And
yeah,
they did do that.
Now, there was a moment early in this game. I know you keyed in on it as well. I was doing 5 hours of softball. It rained, so I was soaking wet, watching on my phone, watching highlights. Somebody, and I'm sure he's going to get some ribbing for it, but so Quinn Hughes scores on just a disgusting toe drag. But then Marcus Foligno has a tunnel wide enough to drive the Titanic through, and opts to try to go. I don't even know what he was attempting to do.
He went golden retriever at the bit. He just lost control of his abilities, and I don't know, tried to make a like a Pavel Datsyuk dipsy doodle type of goal. Thank goodness it didn't come back to haunt them. But my goodness.
For a little while, though, we were all kind of sitting there like,
Well, I put it on X too. I was like, Marcus, you got to calm down a little bit. He was going crazy with the hits, and I just thank goodness he stayed out of the box, because we saw that in 2023 where he went kind of wild and it cost him the series. So thank goodness he didn't end up in the box for any of the hits.
But then Vladimir Tarasenko with that crazy from his knees rebound backhand goal.
How about the celebration? It looked like he was like talking to God. He's like, thank goodness one finally went in.
He went Freddie Mitchell on the bed. He's like, I just want to thank my hands for being so good.
Yes. That rebound by Ottinger was like, oh man.
He looked so the first goal, the Quinn Hughes goal, I saw he stuck his glove out and he just completely missed.
Mhm.
Like he just completely missed the puck. So the Wild take the 1-0 lead. Then he's swung out to the left, swung out to the right side of the net, way out in the crease. The rebound comes sailing through. The Dallas Stars may want to consider putting a body on Vladimir Tarasenko at some point.
Oh man, other than Heiskanen and Lindell, I mean the rest of the D crew just disaster by the Stars.
Rancid. So Tarasenko scores there. Quinn Hughes then scores again, and Matt Boldy gets a couple of empty netters, but Jake Ottinger goals against average over 3 the whole series. And you know, it's funny because there's been some talk about his postseason performance just not being able to live up to what he's done in the regular season. We got a good look at it because he had moments throughout the series where he was brilliant. He had moments throughout the series where you're like,
he let in some really soft goals. The previous game, the McCarron 5-hole one, and the second Quinn goal, he was way just out of position on that. I know we're not off a skate, but he was rattled the entire series.
Yeah, it was not an Ottinger that I'm used to seeing.
No.
But let's get some credit. Let's get some credit to the coaching staff. And you know, it could be players, it could be coaching staff. Somebody said, "Hey, Ottinger's beatable on his he's beatable on his stick side," and they went to work. They had entire games where they beat him with multiple goals to that spot. So somebody in that coaching staff,
Good pre-scout. Yeah.
Somebody picked that up and said,
maybe it was our guy Capiano.
Yeah, Jack he's just running circles around the Stars coaching staff with defensive assignments, with beating Ottinger. Like, let's get him to great clips and let's let the good times roll here.
I hope he's having an Italian sub sandwich celebrating that win.
Yeah, get him a cold cut. In all seriousness, though, like I want to give a large amount of credit to John Hines for tonight because we have entire decades, we have entire centuries worth of history in games like this of what not to do. Seeing whether it be a team not being ready to go for this type of moment, whether it be, you know, not capitalizing on opportunities. Minnesota Wild easily played one of the best periods of the season in the first period of a game in which they did not need to win. They had an opportunity to close out the series, but they for sure, like, they could have gone to game 7. Dallas could have easily grabbed momentum early and taken this to game 7.
Mm-hmm.
But the Minnesota Wild looked like a team that understood exactly what I was asking for them to do in the pregame, which was treat this like a win or go home game, put everything on the line, win the series now so you don't have to go to Dallas and take a chance in a game 7. And that is coaching. That's coaching. That's making sure that the players are ready for the moment. And John Hines, you know, we now get to put a playoff series win next to his
finally
name.
Good for him.
And he masterclassed at this series.
Yeah, and how about they again, it's always the Wild, right? With the goofy goals given up, stanchions. When it went to 2-1, I was like, here we go again. But they didn't panic, and it was an immediate answer. And from there, they knew that they were going to be able to win this game. Matt Boldy was just a beast. He was not going to be denied on the empty net.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Ravens brought back Calais Campbell on a one-year deal to add veteran help up front. Kevin Ostreicher with Locked On Ravens gets into the reunion.
Let's talk about it. Calais Campbell, I love this move. Campbell, according to Adam Schefter, who reported this Thursday morning / early afternoon, Ravens are bringing him back on a 1-year deal. He's going to be 40 by the time the season starts in September, but he is still doing it at an incredible level. He is still dominating. Look, over the course of his career, Calais Campbell has been a monster. He's a huge human being and someone that is just super hard to block. He's like 6'8", 315 pounds, and he has 117 sacks over the course of 18 seasons over the course of his NFL career. And hey, at this point, this will be year 19 for Calais. Might as well make it year 20 next year too. Just, that's how loved Calais is, and feels like he's just a guy that's universally loved everywhere. Obviously spent 3 years in Baltimore from 2020 through 2022 and was a guy that was a leader in the locker room. The production was there for him, and some stats that have been put out about Calais Campbell just to kind of illustrate who he has been, even in this late 30 arc of his career. He was 12th versus the run among all defensive linemen, and something that Cole Jackson was able to put out on his social media that I think he also put in a video. But according to Cole here, 33 pressures, tied for 32nd, 6 sacks, tied for 14th, 8.4 pass rush win rate, tied for 54th, 9.3 pass rush win rate, TPS, tied 74th, 183 run snaps, 2.0 AVDT, tied for 46th, and 24 run stops, tied for 30th. And this is among 140 interior defensive linemen with at least 200 snaps. Tell you what, that's still pretty good. And look, if I told you that was like a 28-year-old guy, everyone was like, yeah, let's go. Like, this guy's going to be great. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there are going to be options for this Ravens defensive line. And that was the thing, right? That's why it's a perfect move to me. There's no negative. I talked about this on the Instant Reaction Show. There is no negative with this conversation. He is someone who is a great leader in the locker room. He's not going to complain about a role. If Nandi Madubuike comes back, which again, we don't know for certain yet one way or the other, he's not going to complain about maybe losing snaps or whatnot. He's someone that is going to lead. He's someone that is going to play with a high motor. He's someone that's a competitor and wants to win. He's someone that still is producing at a very high level, even at his older age. Like, there's no negative here at all. Like, I genuinely just cannot see any negative. Maybe if there was one, it would be the contract, but the contract details have not been reported yet. And even if it is a little bit higher than maybe people anticipate, it's still a good deal for Calais. Like, he fits a need for them where I think that they could have stood to add one more defensive lineman. I know DJ Reader was on a lot of people's minds. Both he and Calais Campbell were my top 2 options for them on the interior. And he returns to a place where he has familiarity, obviously, with Anthony Weaver. And actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm this real quick. Yeah, he was in Baltimore when Jesse Minter was there his last season, when he was promoted as a defensive backs coach in 2020. That's when Campbell started. So they overlapped for 1 year in Baltimore. Obviously, Calais Campbell was not playing secondary for the Ravens, but there's familiarity, which is great. So I'm so pumped about this. And now you have an interior defensive line room that is just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. It's not even funny how stacked it is. And it's not funny because they're going to have to make some tough decisions. But of course, you'd rather make a tough decision with a lot of talent than an easy decision with no talent. You have Nandi Madubuike, whether he comes back or not, but he's in there. Travis Jones, Calais Campbell, Aeneas Peoples, John Jenkins, Broderick Washington, TJ Okoye, and Rayshawn Benny. That's insane, and I think that we play the exercise on the Instant Reaction Show, but if it's Nnamdi, Travis Jones, Calais Campbell, Peoples, and then one of John Jenkins, Broderick Washington, TJ Okoye, Rayshawn Benny, because I think it's 5. I think you keep 5. They're going to probably have to cut like 2 or 3 really good players here. And I do not think Broderick Washington makes this roster. I think he gets cut post June 1st. You can save some savings there. So then it would probably come down to John Jenkins, who played really well for them last season, TJ Okoye, who showed a ton of flashes and I really, really like, or Rayshawn Benny, who was a 7th-round draft pick and does have connections to both Jesse Minter and defensive line coach Louis Esposito. So, but again, this is a good problem to have. Like, I would rather have this problem than feel uncertain about the depth that they have, or like, oh man, they really probably need one more guy, but that may push them over the edge. No, I mean, I'd rather have as many good options as you can, get them all in the building, put them all up against each other, and then boom, you can just see, especially as those like later down the line roster spots where you're fighting for that last spot in the D-line room, you want to have that be like someone else's DT3. You know, like your DT5 is someone else's DT3 for a team that doesn't have as much depth as you. That's where you want it to be. And I think that Baltimore is now in that spot with their defensive line room, which I think is absolutely incredible. And for Calais, he's someone that you're not going to play every single down, right? You're going to have to manage his snaps in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, I actually, the weird part about this is I see people who have been talking about Calais, especially it's more so from the rival fan bases, aka the Cincinnati Bengals is where I've seen it the most from, but it's been other places as well, where they're just like, Calais is he's not even gonna make it through half the season. Like, you know, he's gonna get injured. Calais has played in 3 straight years of full games. He has not missed a game in the last 3 seasons. And even before that, like he has not missed the most games that the least amount of games, that he's played in a season is 12. And that was in Baltimore in 2020. Other than that, it was 13 was the lowest, and then a bunch of 16s. You have a couple 14s in there, 115, but it is a lot of, let's see, he's played in a full season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of 18 years. And he's never played below 12 games in a season. I don't know where that narrative's coming from. He's very durable. And I think with managing snaps, he's gonna be just fine. Like, obviously injuries happen in football, so nothing is guaranteed, but like this notion that, oh, he's injured or he's this injury. No, that's never happened with Calais. And even at his older age, he still is like 3 straight years of full seasons at 37, 38, 39 years old is unbelievable. So play him in a specific role. If Nnamdi has to miss time at the beginning of the season or has to go on PUP, IR, whatever it may be, you have Calais there. And then when Nnamdi comes back in this situation where we're assuming he's healthy for the sake of this exercise and he's able to come back for the sake of this exercise, then Calais can kind of drop down on the depth chart, but that's not going to be a problem for him. He wants to win. He's a team player, obviously a stand-up guy in the community, and honestly, the example in the community that you can use. Like, he's one of those guys. All around, just a perfect move from Eric DeCosta. I've been manifesting this ever since he left Baltimore. I've been manifesting it all off season. So I'm so thrilled and over the moon with this news.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. The Texans locked in Azeez Al-Shaair with a 3-year extension to keep one of their defensive leaders in Houston. John Hickman with Locked On Texans lays out what it means for Houston going forward.
We're getting back to talking about, the offense from 2025. It wasn't all good, man. Listen, when you go into a playoff game with Jaden Higgins, a rookie, who had 10 targets in that game, the route that he ran the most, go route and crosser routes, tied for the most, which at 9. He ran 49 routes. But let's look at this receiving core. Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson, Christian Kirk, Cade Stover, Harrison Bryant, Dalton Schultz, who exited the game, and Jalen Noel. And I also will include Harrison Bryant, Nick Chubb, and Woody Marks. It was a bad recipe to begin with. And then Jared Patterson plays in 72 snaps. And this is not a shot at Jared Patterson whatsoever, but Patterson hadn't been playing. And the week that he has to play, he's going up against one of the better defensive tackles and better defensive tackle units in the NFL, right? The interior offensive line, those guys allowed 12 pressures. These are the things that when you look at why it all broke down for Houston, we'll definitely put a microscope on C.J. Stroud and say, boy, those 4 turnovers were bad. But from a functionality standpoint, they did not have the pieces. Katie didn't have the pieces at all. And I think that's fair to say. We look at Stroud, and I'm not making excuses for him because he was terrible in that game. And one thing that I know, especially from just a perspective of him being a competitor at that quarterback spot, I don't think Stroud wants us to talk about him in this way. Well, number one, it affects his money. Number two, he's a competitor that really wants to be one of the best in the league. And the comments that TJ Houshmandzadeh made was on the Speak Easy podcast, right? So, but for Kelly, no doubt about it, I don't think he can go into next year being a 7. I think the tools are there for him to be much better. And if the 7 is where he ends off next year, then what improved from 2025 to 2026? And did anything get worse, or were things just at a consistent level of just being good? Sometimes you're not going to blow your socks away, right? I will say this. Houston gets in the red zone this year, they got to be better. Running the ball and also passing the ball. Just the entire offensive operation in the red zone has to be better. And I am placing that personally on the shoulders of both offensive coordinator Nick Caley and CJ Stroud. They got to find a way to mesh, TJ. I agree with you on that, but it can't be one pushing back on the other. I don't think, based on Caley's history as an offensive coordinator, which is only 1 year in the last 2 seasons for Stroud, either one should have necessarily of a say-so. And great things work. Great things happen when collaboration is prioritized over selfish intent. That's just life. Now, let's talk about the man. Azeez Al-Shaair signed an extension with the Houston Texans, a 3-year, $54 million deal, one of the heart and souls of the defense and of the team, emotional leader, tone, and culture setter, Walton Payton, Man of the Year nominee. This was a deal I've talked about before and on a squad show. I saw this getting done between after the draft and the start of preseason. I thought it would have been a 2-year contract extension to keep him for another 3 seasons, but he's an extremely valuable player to the point where even Dallas was calling to see about a trade in Dallas. Once people get a taste of Houston, they ain't really trying to go about 45. But like I said, I thought it would have been a 2-year deal. It's a 3-year deal. I believe now we're going to see Azeez Al-Shaair likely retire a Houston Texan. And 2025 might have been his best season in the league, rivaling the 2023 season. Last year, only allowed 7.3 yards per catch, 1 TD allowed, and 2 interceptions, 49 defensive stops, and cut down on penalties as well. You can't get caught up in the numbers with Azeez, because if you do, you're missing the whole picture. Henry To'oTo'o views Azeez Al-Shaair as an invaluable mentor and leader, describing him as irreplaceable and a crucial guide for the Houston Texans defense. To'oTo'o praised Al-Shaair's mentorship both on and off the field, noting his supportive nature during tough times and relying on him as an example for his own development. This is a player that, again, the numbers don't tell the full story of how important he is for this team. I think when he first got to Houston, he was important for the defense. But then you recognize, man, we really got something special here, and we all need to be great. And this takes me back. That comment that I just made takes me back to a conversation that I had in the locker room with Azeez Al-Shaair after a game, the 49ers game, I believe. Not the 49ers game, excuse me. This was after the Houston Texans, right when they started the win streak. And he says, man, DeMeco Ryans challenged us this week. Everybody's calling you this great defense, but there's been multiple occasions where teams have had the ball last. The offense, an opposing offense has had the ball last on the field, and they go down there and score. And we took it personally. And from that moment, you saw the defense play with an entirely different intensity that, in a lot of ways, they was already playing with, but they just took it up a few notches. And I think he's the guy that, along with everybody else in the room, but he's the guy that says, we will not let coach down. To the point where, DeMeco was ready to live and die with his defense. In the playoffs, down with a score, opting to punt and trust the defense to make a play. And I don't think you can do that if you don't have an Azeez Al-Shaair. He also was on Instagram letting everybody know, those experts back in the day that said I wouldn't be good enough to make a practice squad. Who's the expert now? Got paid, man. Really got paid, and I'm extremely happy for him. And here's the best part about Aziz getting paid. And shout out to my man Texas Cap. But look how this deal helps Houston right now. Per Texas Cap, Houston could likely generate $4 to $6 million in cap savings for 2026, which could likely put them over $12 million. So I talked about, maybe Houston bringing back Derek Barnett, or maybe Houston looking at and exploring an option to bring in Jadeveon Clowney. Maybe Houston waits until we get halfway through preseason and they have some money and they figure out maybe the wide receiver room isn't enough. Maybe we need to make an adjustment on the defensive side of the ball at the edge spot. Who knows, right? Maybe an upgrade is needed. But they'll have the money to do so. Happy for Aziz. And I think you guys should be too. I mean, you got a guy that people try to make him out as some sort of a villain. And that's not the case. I think people get away from the fact that we do play football, right? This is a sport. Football, the NFL is a sport where, hey, you need to hit people. And quarterbacks know that. And they know that what they can and can't get away with. So, shout out to Aziz. Great deal for the Houston Texans, and I can't wait to see what he does in his final. Again, like I said, I think this is his final 4 years in the league. He will spend it with the Houston Texans, and it also points to why they didn't draft a linebacker higher, because they're not ready for a contingency plan. They're ready to go win it all with that guy leading the bunch on the defensive side of the ball in the middle. Let's close out today's show looking at some of the comments made on social media this week. Ear to the Street segment on the way. Battle Red Nation, we're going to close out today's show again, like I said, with the Ear to the Street segment. I talked about the tight end battle, Cade Stover versus Brevin Jordan, who gets cut. My man, Barbacoa. I love me some good Barbacoa. Talent-wise, this was a weak draft, so I tend to think that these guys won't have the impact the draftees from previous drafts have had. In the episode, I talked about, Marlon Klein being added and, just a tight end room all together. So I agree. Like, a lot of guys were really big on the Baylor tight end, and I believe he went undrafted. And I was telling people, like, is he a freak of an athlete? He is, but there are so many things fundamentally wrong in his game that he's going to have to improve on. I believe he's in Dallas, so good luck to the young man. We'll love to see him make some plays in the league this year. Edwin Vicks. The next time Casario says BPA, tell him to fold it in three corners and proceed to Let me read this again. The next time Casario says BPA, best player available, tell him to fold it in three corners and proceed to two-step. Yeah. Paul ZM9SE. If we stay healthy this year, the sky is absolutely the limit. I agree, man. Like, we look around the NFL. Let's say we look around the AFC South. I don't think the Colts got better enough for the Houston Texans. I don't. And they got out to that hot start last year, and I think they're going to fall off again. The Jags, obviously, who won the division, their team looking to put it together. They're going to get healthier. They're going to figure out a way to use Brian Thomas Jr. some more. Travis Hunter's going to come back. So they got some things brewing over there. In Tennessee, got the quarterback last year, got him a weapon this year, built around it on their defense. We'll see what they do this year. But for the Texans, for a franchise that were like two steps away, they are still, in a lot of ways, the better team in the division. Because what were those two steps? Offensive line play, they already got better. So they already got a foot forward. The offensive line play is going to increase the running room, right? The running back situation. We should not see 3.9 yards per carry this upcoming year. We shouldn't see a running back, go 0.29 yards before contact this year. Right? We shouldn't see that. We should see a better CJ Stroud. And to the point of, if we stay relatively healthy this year, the sky is absolutely the limit. What did Houston miss in that last game? Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Trent Brown. Then you got to think about what they missed for the entire year. Tank Dell, Joe Mixon. All right. Those things, in a lot of ways, should not hold Houston back in 2026. It should not. Let's see here. I feel like Klein will be groomed to be our next Vontae Leach type of running blocking beast. Not a fullback, but he has the physicals for it. Man, y'all be on Madden too much. That dude at 6'6", 250, ain't playing fullback, my boy. That's not going to happen. Let me tell you something. This is where everybody has the right to be enraged. Hey, if that guy's lining up at fullback majority of the time, yeah, people have the right to be pissed off. You're not selecting a fullback at 59. That's just not smart. A lot of you guys did not like the Texans trading up for Keelan Rutledge. A lot of you guys, I see this was right here. My man Arthur Smiley B7E said KG 2.0, that's Kenyon Green, a road grader who is lost as a pass blocker. It would have made more sense to draft Pregnon and move him to center, or draft Logan Jones, the Remington Award winner. McDonald, Washington, Taylor Green, Rouse should be the next 4 picks. My brother, you don't believe that. You don't believe Keelan Rutledge could work out, but you wanted the Houston Texans to draft Taylor Green.
That's all for today's Big 6 in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, and on campus, going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 6 in 60.